with me today, sorry, I just need to send this. I have with me today, Madam Anne Akahara, and I'm going to save the, I wouldn't say the best, but is my father and my big brother. So I have with me today, Madam Anne Akahara. I have Mr. Machif Malo. I have Penny now Ugoyok. She was one of our pioneer guests. I have Dr. Amina Aliu joining us from from England today. Thank you for joining. And I have Otumba Michael Balogun. They are all part of the people that want to listen in. We didn't have a lot of people listening in, but the people speaking today are Bishop Benjamin Kwashi, who is my big brother and my bishop and my father. I think that there's no need to read out the profiles for each one of them, but somebody is telling me that I should just read a little bit. So I'll start with reading through Machif Malo is one of our directors in SI Group, is a graduate of business administration and management, and an astute administrator, facilitator, project manager, management, and business development expert. He is vast in research, proposal writing, development, proposal writing, development, and implementation. I think that is all about Mr. Machif Malu. Mr. Machif Malu, thank you for joining us today. I also have with us today, yes, with us today, I don't want to read the, with us today, I have Penina. Penina was one of our pioneer speaker at the first episode that we had. She is a young lady passionate about the welfare and inclusion of women and the girl child in the society. She's a lawyer, called to the Nigerian Bar in 2012. She holds a master's degree in corporate law and governance. She's also a businesswoman who has also trained young girls in the fashion industry to enable them have economic strength through their skills. We have today also my big sister, Princess Brakoru Adama, one of the princesses of the from Edo. She's a social entrepreneur, CEO for Alpha Bold for Creative Kids Foundation. She graduated from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, with a degree in sociology. She holds a certificate in international trade, project management, alternative dispute resolution, human resource management, and emotional wellness. So the last, and who is one of my favorite people in the world right now, is the Most Reverend Dr. Benjamin Aga Kwashi. He's the Bishop of the Anglican Diocese of Jos and Archbishop of the Ecclesiastical Province of Jos in the Church of Nigeria. He and his wife, Gloria, live in Jos, Plateau State in northern Nigeria. He was ordained in 1982 and 10 years later became the Bishop of Jos. In January 2008, he was presented as the Archbishop of Jos Province in the Church of Nigeria. I'd like to stop there. You can see that we have an array of powerful speakers, people who have done the work, people who care about the community. And today, hosting with me today is Maimuna Salim. She's an executive director for SI Group of companies. She's my sister, my best friend, sister from another mother. We do not want to read our profiles. So thank you all for coming, and for all those other guests that joined in with us. I can see an Anapon and Dako Adeni joining us today. Thank you all for coming. So before I start, I was going, during my research, I was, for this topic that we're having today, which is the role of mothers in treasury looting in Nigeria. And in Africa too. One of the things that I did a research, and there was a report by Dakuku Peter's side, who said something in Premium Times, talking about the latest looting in Nigeria. So I'd like to just, if you permit me, read a little bit of what he said, and it was very interesting for me. He said, lately, Nigeria has been lucky, although for the wrong reasons. Money has metaphorically been falling from the sky, even as the country is in severe economic distress and needs every dollar to meet its obligations. First, it was the series of Abacha loots from the United States alone. Approximately about 332.4 million was recovered. Between March 2021 and May 2022, 6,324,627 euros was recovered from foreign countries. According to the former Justice Minister, Abubakar Malami, these were among recoveries from other countries. The latest is from unknown persons and unidentified sources in Jersey, a Channel island. The funds worth $8.9 million are believed to be proceeds of corruption disguised as government-sanctioned contracts in 2014 for arms purchases, but which were diverted to shell companies. The silent heist in Nigeria is not executed with masks and guns, but with pens and deceit. The nation is robbed of its promise with the bleeding dry of public funds. In the dance of corruption, Nigeria's public funds are the unwilling partner, waltzing away from the grasp of those who need it the most. The key actors are those we entrust with our commonwealth. It's really painful as I read through this write-up. It's just an introduction. It's a very long read. And I thought that before we start, and I'd like if the speakers will put up their cameras and then we start. I'd like to start with Bishop Benjamin. Yes, sir.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
Yes. So, it's very interesting that we have this topic and we speak about the role of mothers, right? That's a very deep thing that we're speaking about, the role of mothers in raising treasury looters. So I want us to contextualize treasury looters. What in your understanding, we start with Archbishop Sir, what in your understanding is treasury looters? What do you think that is?
Once you say this issue has to do with treasury, then it describes a situation of trust beyond you. In other words, you are keeping a treasure. And there's no other person who understands treasure more than women. I suspect those three wise men who came to greet Jesus with gold, with myrrh, with frankincense, those are not man things. Those are women things. They must have searched for it and asked their women because they are treasures. In Nigerian parlance, you say when you're going for a wedding, you look for bottom box. Treasures are the bottom box issues. But this bottom box does not belong to you. It belongs to an agreed geography of a locality of people. So it's really, really not yours. It's a trust. And if anybody is going to touch from that, it has to be with the agreement of the locality of the people within that geography, that this thing we have agreed should be removed for the purpose of this, with the agreement of the people. And this is what happens. It doesn't matter whether it's in local business or in the church or in the mosque. Once there is a treasury, it ceases to be a personal property. And I think that is the reason why it is so important that we raise treasurers rather than treasury looters.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bishop Benjamin, there's something else that I'd like you to highlight here. You told me the first time I met you in Jos, there was something you told us during the conference, the peace conference. You said you told a story about the way your mother treated you growing up when it comes to the issues of honesty. Please, can you highlight, give us one story that you remember that, because one of the first things you said right now is that raising treasury accountable human beings, not people who are looting. So one of the templates that we have established in my Muse Lounge and for Motherhood to Nationhood series is for people to tell a story that resonates to more people to understand that these things were not part of us before. These things were just alien to us. It's now that we're seeing a new generation of leaders who are looting. So can you please go back in time and tell us a little bit about how your mother raised you with that accountability quotient that we see now that has made you who you are right now? Thank you.
The first thing I was to learn with difficulty was whenever I come back from school, my mother would inspect my bag and look at me. If there was anything I brought in the bag that didn't belong, believe me, no exaggeration, it was returned that day to wherever I took it from. That was a discipline I learned. So even if my friends gave me things and I wanted to bring them, I'll keep them outside our compound, not bring them in. Eventually, of course, when I go back to pick my thing, it has been stolen. So it was a worthless venture, bringing anything outside, inside. So those were early lessons. But the worst of the worst, which I thought my mother was very wicked for, was that she will keep bananas, she will keep all these little things. And honestly, I thought she was wicked. And they will be there, and I'm seeing it. Now, the only reason you can get it is if you ask. And even when you ask, you have to say, please. Now, in Hausa, that's a bit difficult because basically, I mean, that in our days, that's how we're raised. We're Hausa kids. So the training in Wusasa was, you say, Mama, inking yadda, kozan samu dang ayaban, which means, please, can I have a piece of a banana? But as long as you didn't ask, if you take it, you are a thief. That name was painful. It was very painful. Can you imagine a child being told that you stole a banana, of all things? Okay, it graduated to chocolates. My father was a fantastic man. He would buy all these things, and the tins of the chocolates will be there looking at you, and you'll be looking at them.
Yes.
If you are not given, then if you take it, you are a thief. So the discipline was difficult between ages 0 to 6. But by the time it gets to 8, you are now familiar with it. Now, the trouble is, even if you ask, you have no guarantee that you'll be given. Because sometimes you are asking and then you've not eaten food. Say, no, until after food. So you rush the food and say, Daddy, now, Mommy, can I have it? And Mommy said, no, you've just had food now. So you eat and let us see. Maybe tomorrow you'll have. So that discipline dragging, my mother was not a big woman. She was a smallish woman. She was barely 5 foot. And she was tiny. So the thing used to, as I grew up, it was very, very painful as I was growing. But that became the discipline that earned me my position when I went to secondary school and I went to military school, where honor, trust, and respect was rewarded.
Okay, so thank you, Bishop. That was fantastic. You know, what you've just mentioned now so resonates. I'm sure it resonates with all of us, right? The values that we have, the values that we embodied, and the discipline in the homes. And, you know, looking at it, a lot of us were raised by our mothers because we are the first point of call as a mentor. But, you know, when you question this treasury looters, I mean, Bishop made a comment about it not belonging to you. However, people have this notion, and I'm going to be a bit controversial. Like, I pay my taxes. The country, I do so much, and I'm not getting back anything. So why, if I get into civil service and I get access to treasury, why not? So I would like Mr. Machief now to comment on this point that I've just made.
Thank you, Dr. Maimuna. I think from the very basics, one of the greatest mistakes that most so-called public servants or Nigerians had made is to have that mentality of saying that when I get to public office, either it's my turn or I pay my taxes, and as such, let me take the opportunity to get whatever I want to get out of government coffers, and in the end, becomes a burden to the general populace, as it were. Because if you look at the truth, like our Lord Bishop had mentioned, many Nigerians, most Nigerians, even if not all, were properly trained or were rightly brought up by their mothers. In short, there are points where if there are any things that you buy or come in with that is not yours, your parents will even ask you, or your mother will ask you, how did it come about such money? So, but because the foundation is completely lost at some point, where people become public servants, and the expectations are that if you go to public service, bring more to the house, to the family, and questions are no longer asked. People gradually becoming used to it. Even the community themselves now will start telling that you went to public service, and what did you come or do for the community in the long run? The demands that will now start being poured on you as an individual will become so much that you need to also look elsewhere to get extra income. Of course, where will that be? It will be that probably you go beyond your salary, your budgetary allocations, or even misappropriate in order that you give the community, your family, the desired request and demand they are pouring out of you. So I know quite well, because we interact with ourselves every day in Nigeria with both public servants, political public servants, and the rest. You realize that because of the kind of demands that is being placed on them on a daily, these persons would go beyond their reach or their earnings. And I think one of the questions that will now start arising is that what is the role of even the mothers at this point? Your son is in public service. Start asking him questions. How comes that you are earning so and so amount, but yet you're driving a car that is far beyond the salary in just how many months that you've gone to office? How comes that you're building this house in just 2-3 years? That is like 3, 4, 10 times your salary that you've earned. The church, the mosque, your community that will keep asking you to come and donate on every weekend should also start questioning you. When you ask to come and donate, we're expecting 50,000 naira or 10,000 naira, and then you're donating 10 million in order to create impression that you have money. Where did you get that money from? These are the roles that the society. Come again, Ma?
Thank you, my chief. Thank you very much, my chief. I'd like to quickly go to Madam Anne Akahara. Thank you, Madam, for joining us.
Can you guys, before you go to Madam?
Okay, before I go to, yes.
Sorry, Madam Akara.
Bishop is saying something.
Yeah, I just want to say that Maimuna's question has sparked the real issue. Now, once you say something is treasury, it ceases to be yours. So the moment you take anything out of that, you are a thief. It doesn't matter who. So those people asking for, you went to public office, you take this, that you should do that. The treasury has the solution of those people asking whether they are church, mosque, or anybody. The money in that treasury have a budget. to meet the needs of people. And if we agree to follow that budget and spend it accordingly and jail the contractors who refuse to do the work for the people, if we jail them, then people will stop begging us. And look, listen, I'm a child of the 50s. Nigeria looked after me. I swear to God, I will die for this country. My father could pay school fees for me to anywhere. When I went to military school, he didn't even give me transport money. The Nigerian federal government, through the Nigerian army, gave me a warrant to get up from Jos and go to Zaria. And they paid me salary as a little 12-year-old boy every month, £1, up to when I finished. And when I finished, they were prepared to give me scholarship to any university or NDA or anywhere I will go or continue service in the Nigerian army. Excuse me, the budget was there. Ayo Adedeji was the director of planning or PAMSEC planning for Nigeria. And young people, we were planned for. There was no need to go and meet an uncle in any government to say, give me this. There was no need to go and meet, except you visited your seniors who were lieutenant colonel. They will give you, they will support you, they will encourage you. And if you serve in their unit, they will send you to school. So there was no need at all for public treasury to be touched. And nobody did that. What we are seeing in Nigeria today is strange. So the mothers
it's actually strange. Thank you.
The mothers have issues, the children have issues. It is public treasury. Sorry, that's what I was saying.
We're losing.
So Anne, Madam Anne, you know, the Archbishop just spoke about, you know, those who loot treasury should actually go to jail. But we know the situation in Nigeria. Impunity is there, right? The law stands. However, there's no recourse for people who go against the law. So what is your take on this? Because it's a continuous cycle. It's a vicious cycle that's going on, and there's no end to it. How do we end this? What role does the mother play in this one?
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning once more to everyone. Yesterday night, I did ponder over this question, and I think last week I started reading the book that has been written by the ruler of Dubai. And I'm answering your question. It might just take us a little bit. I might take you, a little bit back and forth. But I use Dubai as a reference point because I'm just wondering what exactly did they do to get to where they are, and why can't we, what is wrong with us as people? Why can't we just do the same thing? And, for me, I haven't finished reading the book. I'm just on the first chapter, but what just speaks to me, what's glaring, popping out of the pages, is the fact that, look, we have decided, the rulers decided to come together and say, look, we're going to see how we can work together with the people to achieve one single common goal. We're going to come together and work with the people to make sure that, everybody is empowered economically. When we talk about treasury looting and, the roles mothers play, I would like us first and foremost to look at who a woman is, first and foremost. What would make a woman? Because you see, for a child to steal, that means some values have been passed down by the mother. Let's look at the woman's background. Let's look at her childhood. What was it like? And the fact that we just go maybe one generation or two generations down is not enough. But I'm just going to highlight two things. For me, for a woman to raise a child who would steal, there's something wrong. Something must have gone wrong in her own background. It could be as a result of two things, poverty and values, lack of values. So let's look at poverty. How empowered are women today in Nigeria and Africa as a whole? These are some of the questions that we need to have answers to. I really don't want to go down a rabbit hole. I just want us to, well, let me speak for myself personally. I just want to be solution focused, because the truth of the matter is if we start talking about the problems of Nigeria, it will never, we'll be here till 2 a.m. So,
Correct.
yes. So for me, I think to be able to solve this issue when we look at treasury looting, I'd like to highlight looking at, two things, like I said. But the second thing I want to talk about is values. Because frankly speaking, if we don't go back to addressing what is really important to us as human beings, thank God we have an archbishop here. We're all spiritual human beings here. If we don't, before, people start doing things physically, there are things that have already taken place in the spiritual. So when we talk about values, these are intangible things. I think we need to go back as human beings, as mothers, as grandmothers also. I don't know how many generations, and begin to address that. Because when we talk about treasure, we're just talking about commonwealth. This is wealth that belongs to everybody. If I bring it down to a home, look at a pot of soup. The mother cooks a pot of soup. The pot of soup is for everybody to eat. It's not for the mother to just dish. And then after she's dished, whatever is left, she gives to maybe the husband and the children. So I think these are, for me, when we talk about treasury looting, we just have to go back to what's really important as human beings. I heard Mr. Machip talking about pressure coming from the community. Now, if I'm a public officer and I have access to public funds, what are my values? What is making me sink down to the level of a couple of people putting pressure on me to go and loot and bring to them? So I think there has to be, I will still bring it back to values. We have to get to a point where we begin to teach, self-awareness. Because if you're just going to be able to bow at any point in time to external pressure coming from maybe your wife, your husband, your children, your community, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong with you as a person. Then the person who is also putting that pressure on you, there's something wrong. So, I will just take it back to, values.
Madam Anne, can I just ask you, there's a question I wanted to ask you initially, which is there are things that the bishop highlighted from the story he told as a person when he was growing up. Do you think that there was something happened in the processes of the people who are stealing from the treasury? I'm asking you this question because I know you're a mother, and is there something? I feel that there has to be something scientifically wrong from the processes. Look how he said that he has to, before he even takes a piece of banana, he will ask his mother, and the way he said it in Hausa, he didn't finish translating because it was very powerful. He said, "Dan Allah, can I, do you think for her to give him a piece of banana? Do you think that the processing, there are processes as mothers where you're teaching and inculcating values in your children? Do you think that there was something wrong with the public officers looting for them to be who they are? Or do you think that it was just a peer pressure or something? Or maybe from what Mr. Machim said, is it part of it? Because I'm coming to Penny now, there's a reason why when you finish your talk, because we don't have time, we're running out of time. When you finish your explanation, I'd like to go to Penny now quickly, because there was something she said last week that brought us to this second question. Thank you, Madam Anne.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll make it very fast. Basically, if I look at Archbishop's household, it's still a transferring of good values, good manners. This is how we behave in this house. Before you take anything, you come and ask. That has already been established. So I think maybe in these particular homes where, treasury looters are coming from, there was probably a break in raising the children properly. That's basically what I'm going to say, because I think we were pressed for time. So
yes,
it doesn't, it's not rocket science, frankly speaking. It's just, yes.
Okay, so Barrister Penina Goyok, there's something you said last week while we were having a discussion, we're having this conversation about upbringing and community parenting. You said that one of the things that breaks the processes of bringing up the children for them to be contributors to society was you feel that you cannot give what you do not have. And I think that Madam Anne and Bishop and even my chief mentioned it. Can you also please tell us quickly a little story, because part of the template we're having in this podcast is for us to tell a story and let that story be applicable to the subject matter. So can you tell us a little story about why you think that mothers cannot give what they do not have? Like you said, nobody can give. There was is a legal term or something. Please, can you quickly highlight on that? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This conversation has triggered a lot of memories for me and a lot of thoughts. Growing up, we got a lot of things on merit. Like Bishop said, if you don't ask, you don't get. And there's no reason why you should bring what doesn't belong to you home. In fact, the fear of what will happen to you will deter you from bringing such thing home. And you come back home, your mother is searching your bag, looking out for. I went to a boarding school. I come back from boarding house. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes,
We can.
clearly.
Yeah, okay, thank you. You come back from boarding house. Your mom is searching through your box. Is there anything that doesn't belong to you that is there? If you don't have, and in fact, without even with an explanation, you're going to chop beating for it. And then as you're going back to school, you're returning it and all of that. And you find out that these days parents don't really have that time. Once they give their children stuff or their children come back from school, they don't even know what the child, sometimes the children will go home, come back with stuffs and still come back to school with that same thing. And the mother might not even notice it. And just like when I looked at the topic, some thoughts came to my mind. Do parents know the friends of their children? As a parent, do you know your children's friends? Do you know the people your children are relating with? Do you know their names? Do you know the parents of those children? What do those parents do? Because a child that is not properly brought up will feel that it is a normal lifestyle. And that child, the tendency of passing that on to your own child is there. So it's like a ripple effect. A child that is a product of a looted treasury will make your child who you are working hard to give something feel that what you're doing is inadequate and probably trigger a desire for more. And when your child's friend sees it as a normal thing, you discover that gradually, your child starts picking up those wrong values. And also, I remember even in the university, as a grown-up girl in the university studying law, sometimes you have friends that will even dash you money. You can't come back home with that money, because if my mother does see you with that money, you will explain and you will be beaten for having such amount of money. So sometimes we'll have to buy and share all that money before we get home, because you cannot be found with such amount of money. You understand?
Yes.
And then when my chief was speaking, he talked about civil service, people looting treasury in civil service, people putting pressure on them. And what came to me, what I remembered was, how do these people get these jobs in the first place? I'm a very practical person because I've experienced Nigeria. Like Bishop said, they enjoy during their time. Our time, I'm this generation that we have to suffer, and they don't even care about merits. I remember recently, about last year or 2 years ago, I applied for a job and I went through the process of recruitment because it was my field. I was very vast in energy law, and it was a walkover for me. I did the interview, I passed up till the final stage, and they told us that everybody is here on merit. And truly, I was there on merit. And
Yes.
I did the interview, and at the end of the day, I uploaded my documents on their site, and all of a sudden I got a rejection mail that we are sorry, we could. And then I started inquiring, what happened? I got to this point, what now happened? They say, what happened was somebody confided and told me that what happened was that they gave their people, something happened, they had to switch and all that. And I felt bad. And I was talking to somebody, but why didn't you tell me? Why did you just leave it like that? Why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, why should I tell you? When I passed, when I went through the process, I did well. So why should I tell you? Say, no, they don't do that anymore.
Okay.
And I was so
Madam Telly, I'll just stop you there because it's time to, almost time. So thank you for your comments there. And, listening to you, I'm just like trying to assimilate this kind of information because it says a lot about what people do. And when you speak about these things, people say, but Nigeria, you know how Nigeria is. But
No.
Are we to accept the way Nigeria is? Are we to tolerate it? And when we say, for instance, somebody comes from a home where there's values and discipline, and this person goes into a situation where they make a decision now to loot the treasury, is it greed? What is the root cause? Because we talk about the symptoms here. What is the root cause that this person decides to do that? And I would like Mr. Machif to speak on that point, because every time we look at a problem, people look at the symptoms and not look at the root cause. Are we to say that he didn't come from a good home? Maybe this person did come from a good home, did have discipline in the home, were taught the right values, but decided, okay, I'm here with my friends, peer pressure, whatever it is, and I'm going to also loot. Is it because of what? What's that reason? What is that root cause? Mr. Machif?
Thank you, Dr. Memuna, again. I'll just go direct, and I will cite
I'd
one or
like
two
you to tell a
examples.
story. I'd like you to tell a story on that because I know you do have a story.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm going to cite one or two examples. For example, I'll take a story of former premier Tafawa Balewa that I know of.
Yeah.
It was told to a lot of us that Tafawa Balewa, during his time as the prime minister, once he stays in his office till around 4 p.m. that it is officially closing hours, he used to use lamp in the office. He will put off the lamp that belongs to government, and then he'll go and take his own personal lamp and put on and start using. That is discipline. That is someone who is purposeful and who understands what service means to the people. So he's saving the nation's gas at that point and using his personal gas, because that time it is beyond work hours. How many Nigerians do we have that do that? Today we have Nigerians that will go and carry a whole car or generator or property that belongs to government and convert it to become their personal use, which is a complete opposite to the kind of standard the likes of Tafawa Balewa puts. Let me give you again the story of the former governor of Lagos State that built massive houses and also promoted free education that a lot of us enjoyed. I personally, I grew up in Lagos. I did my primary and secondary school in Lagos, and I enjoyed free education. And Jack Conde provided all these things for free. But today, if you go to Lagos, you will see most of these facilities, if they are not even completely dead, they are destroyed. Because what Jack Conde had a principle, he had a value he represents, he has a goal, he has a vision and a mission to serve the people. And as such, he provided massive housing for people, at the same time, free education for people. And then going further, I'll set an example of my own dad. My dad was a retired soldier. I remember I said in S&T, my dad took the Nigeria NAPEX, Nigeria Army Post Exchange, to be established in Liberia around 92-93 during the war. The then Chief of Army Staff, Salih Ibrahim, took like $1 million and said, Mr. Ayuba, go and buy goods from Nigeria and take to Liberia and sell. The cash was brought to him. My dad refused. That is not his duty. That is not his work. That what he will do rather is going to ask a director, someone at the directorate level, to make these purchases. His own is to take it, go down to Liberia, open the supermarket and sell them and bring the money back to Nigeria, make another purchases and do like that and go and send money to them to do it. The Chief of Army Staff then was shocked. And I had to call my dad for a meeting with other directors and say, look at this man. And they ask, is he a storeman? They say, yes, a storeman. And I said, because by practice, I know what he's supposed to do. But then we knew a lot of like my father mates that were in supply and transport, S&T, that will go and take petroleum products to Liberia, sell, and they came back very rich. My dad, till he retired from the army, he was never a rich man. He lived by what his salaries were, by his earnings, and up till date, that's how he lived. Some of us at the point where, because probably we call it peer pressure, they're like, look at some mates that are building big houses, they own cars and the rest. Why can't you do that? He said, no. And let me tell you, my children, many of these persons today are not able to live the way they used to live by then. Many of them have died because that same money is no longer coming in like they had spent. Many of them are very unhealthy. And today he's very fine, he's good, he's healthy, and he's seeing his grandchildren. So what am I trying to say? Many of these so-called leaders lost the value from the very foundation. Many of them also lose touch with the teachings of their mothers from the home front. And then when they go, their greed and their desire to pursue their own personal ambition made them lose focus. And that is where we are today. Thank you.
I don't want your time. I don't want your time. You are really sparking some things, Dr. Malo. Let me agree with you 100%, but let me quickly say, because the time is up, that the key issue is not only your father, it's also your mother. Because a woman who marries a trusted man, if he brings extra to the house, she will question him, and he can't keep it. If he cannot explain it, he can't keep it. I'm married to one. So let me quickly say, dear mothers, please, if we want to address this issue, as Anne had earlier said, and as Dr. Gonyok also mentioned, and as Dr. Massif, let me assure you, since you people have given it spiritual dimension, the problem we entered into with the sin of the world is because Eve did not ask questions. So whatever you take and you are not given, you will enter Allah.
Yes.
But since then, women learned their lessons. And it's true. Since then, women learned their lessons. And women have three things that until we harness and develop it, we are going to be raising children the wrong way. Number one, women are builders. It's nature to them. Men are not.
Correct.
Women are builders. The nature of a woman is she will collect things, she will expand her territory, she will go to the farm, she will do that. So let us look at how we can harness that. We're looking at solutions. Number two, women are treasury keepers. Any human being that wants to succeed in life, give your wealth to a woman. Believe me, they are treasury keepers. They will multiply it for you. They will do business. They will do all kinds of things you never know. They will keep you. I mean, you give your wife 10,000 naira today. You come next week, you are looking for 10,000 naira. She will give it to you, but she has got 5,000. Well, how did she do it? She keeps money. Number three, women are community developers. When you marry a good wife, she doesn't know your father from Adam. She doesn't know your senior sister. She doesn't know. She is the one who here, Uncle so has died, but in Jane, so let me go and greet them. Women are the ones who link up. Now, if all these three things I have mentioned is the gift of a woman, why don't we go back to developing girls' schools and begin to give them values? Because women keep values as treasures. And when women try values and it works, they multiply it through their children. Women are builders. I can tell you, I'm now retired. I don't have a house of my own. But when this woman showed me a land and said, Baba, so I don't have a choice. It is women who now are worried about their grandchildren, about their great-grandchildren, uncles' children. So let us begin now to think of how to develop women in Nigeria, give them these values, not to become thieves, not to become anything else but treasury keepers and community developers, and see how they multiply it into their children who are now my grandchildren. That's all I want to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bishop. I was going to ask you before you made your very, very interesting comment. There was something that I know I'll be a little bit controversial here, but there was a question that kept hounding me. And that question is, what do you, I'd like you to make a very important, I need you to interpret this for me. What do women, most times we women, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So the issue, how we began Motherhood to Nationhood started with the question that mothers mostly are always saying that, oh, may my Allah sa my yaro na zama president, may my child become president of Nigeria, may my child become minister of Nigeria. And the question came to my mind, and I was thinking, I'll share with my team members. Why is it that when the ministers of presidents of Nigeria, do they just sit back and think that their work is done? Is it that they wait and allow their children bring stolen goods to them after raising these children to be honest children? Do they just keep keeping quiet that their children looted and they collect the money and just look the other way? Is it double standard? Or is it that the mothers do not know that their children are stealing? These are the questions that plague my mind. Can you please expatiate on that, Bishop? Yes, and thank you. And before you respond, we would also like to throw it out in the we have Otumba, Michael, Balogun, and Dr. Amina, if they can make their own comments after Bishop explained the last question. Thank you, Bishop.
The first one is that my mother was a pastor's daughter. Her father was a pastor, 1919, so that's the generation. And so whatever I do, she will always say, Kada kabanu kunya. In other words, I'm her ambassador. So a mother who realizes that her child is her ambassador will do everything to put the best in a child because he's an ambassador.
That's powerful. That's powerful, yes.
So when I went to play football and I scored a goal, everybody who came and told her, oh, Benji Ashago, she was proud of that. But in my teenage, when I became a problem to myself and to everybody, she took me to every prayer meeting. You don't know these women. They spoil your good name. Every prayer meeting, so now when later on I was to become a Christian and to come back, every woman where I met, they say, Benji Kadaone, women I don't even know. They will be. And then I went for ordination. They were also proud of her. Because you are an ambassador of your family. That is the first thing. The second thing is that when women take that position of really investing in their children, which is what Maimuna was trying to say, there is a missing link when they don't. So when they become this or the other, they are naturally going to do what their mothers did not teach them. If, on the other hand, like Dr. Malo said, they become, in spite of their teaching, then they have bowed to a pressure which is completely unambassadorial to their mothers. In other words, mothers should teach their children not to bow to any pressure, no matter what, let them be. Because we are proud of Sir Amadou Bello, we are proud of Tafawa Balewa, And we in particular in Plateau are proud because his mother is from our area. So we are proud of that because he stood the pressure. General Gowon stood that pressure. As soon as he stepped down from office, he was overthrown. He immediately told his wife, move out of the hotel. He told everybody, I'm no longer president. I don't have that money again. Move out. I was government property. Now I'm no more. That is the discipline he got from his mother. His mother didn't go to school, but she raised 9 wonderful children who had a name in Nigeria, each one of them. And in fact, she decided their futures. That is what a mother can do. But thirdly, I believe that this subject in your generation, as a mother, you are the generation to save Nigeria right now. Because the treasury looters are children of people. Let us make this podcast loud and clear. They have failed their mothers. They have failed their communities. They are no longer ambassadors worthy of their family, and in fact, no longer ambassadors worthy of Nigeria. We denounce them because treasury is not meant to be looted.
Love that. I love that.
Love that.
I love that. That is fantastic. I just came up with like a whole sentence in conjunction with what you just said. So I want us to let us build a nation. Let us take motherhood and build a nation of ambassadors in our communities to protect our treasury. Thank you, Bishop. That was phenomenal.
Thank you. And I'd like to, before we go off, because we just have a few minutes left, I'd like to, before everybody also say their last words, I'd like to hear from Otumba Michael Balogun. He has been listening in. He's one of our partners, and he's been helping us to broadcast this podcast. He said it's interesting. He once told me recently that he bought a car. The first time he bought the car, his mom asked him, I let him tell the story. Autumn, please, can you join the conversation?
Good morning.
Before we go to Dr. Amina. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Can you please tell us, add your voice to this conversation? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes. It's most reverend. I am happy. I'm listening to you, and may God bless you and increase you in wisdom. And
Amen.
I love what you just said, that this thing should be made louder. There are a whole lot of podcasts that I would never even sit down to listen to in 10 minutes because they don't have any impactful meaning. But when my sister brought this up, I had this sudden rush of emotion because when it comes to mom, I think we respect for a male child in Nigeria, so to speak, we have more respect for our mothers than our fathers. Because I remember when I was going to school, the first thing my mom told me before going to university was, remember the son of who you are. And those words were engraved in my heart forever. So when the pressure came from courses, oh, you need to be here, you need to join this, the only thing I remember was, I'm an only child. I'm going to be 52 this year. And those words I have told my house, I ever have, but people will put your poster out there, wanted or in jail. Remember this same name that I protected for all these years. I've been in Nigeria for 13 years since I relocated. I don't think about anything to do with the law. Like a policeman will invite me for questioning. But the first day I bought a car, the questioning I got from my mom was even worse than the one FBI would have given any terrorist. Because she made me explain where the money came from, how I sourced the money. I had to tell her I was saving. I was working at British Council, 2 years contract. I had to show her every document. She said, I'm a retired school vice principal. How would I explain to my people in my village that my son brought this car? And the car she was talking about was a Golf GTI. That same Golf, now if you see it on the road, I don't think any woman will look at me twice to say, this is what you are driving. But back in those days, it was more like, where did you get the money? Have you joined these bad people? Please don't spoil this family's name. I'm a Christian woman because I need to be able to defend. And this was how we were brought up. You bring a game and watch from school, they'll beat you. Did you steal this? Even comic, Marvel comic, Batman, you borrow a comic. Did I buy this from you? That means you stole it. I'm taking you to school tomorrow to go and explain this on your assembly line, and then you start sweating in the AC because it's embarrassment. So I tell my kids, even if it's just 2 shoes you have, wear it pride. And it starts from the home.
Yeah.
Because if you can't manage what you have, you're going to steal. You're going to put one in the cookie jar. And then somebody that's raised without love gets into a power position and he has a virus to just sign a check for 1 million and changes it to 100 million. I expect him not to loot the treasury. It becomes something of ease. The first time I worked with somebody else, when I left the British Council, the man set up a bureau de change called Queen's Bridge. He lives in the UK. I said, why do you want me to do this? He said, remember back in London, I kept £2,000 with you. The same way he kept the £5, £10, £20. After 3 months, he asked for the money. I gave him the same way. He said, you didn't even remove the. I said, why? Is it my money? And it made me manage his company for 2 years, carrying dollars up and down in Lagos. So why would I now go to a place of plenty and start looting? The shame will be there. I always remember my mother is still alive. That if anybody calls this woman and says your son is in police station, she might collapse and die. And these are the things even the people in the government don't listen to, because some of the so-called pastors, the priests, the imams are all compromised. So they can't even open their mouth to say this to power.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Somebody is commissioning a bill for 50 million.
Thank you so much, Otumba. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for your comment. That was very that was invaluable. Thank you so much. Dr. Amina, do you want to add to the conversation before we go to our speakers for their last words? Thank you for joining us, Dr. Amina. Dr. Amina is calling in from England. She's a medical doctor too.
Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings be with you all. I'm so happy about this platform that you've created, mashallah. I am with all the panelists, you know, the Bishop, Penina, Madam Anne, you know, Mashif that has gone, mashallah. You guys are doing something very, very important, because we need to take the bull by the horn and try to change things. Nigeria is just spiraling and spiraling, and it's so sad. And people are leaving, people like me, which, subhanallah, you want to go back home and help your people. But it hurts, it hurts. The reason why I left Nigeria is because the bribery and the corruption. And everything you are going to do, the story I studied in BUK, you know, in Kano. So my story, why I left and went to the UAE, was everything you're going to do, they'll tell you, biki bada chin hanchi ba? How do you expect that Miki Abu? You have to buy the chin hanchi. I was like, even the smallest thing you can imagine, I was like, this is wrong. We know the Lord has said bribery is haram. If you have a duty, you have to do it because that's your duty, not because you have to wait someone to pay you. So just to cut a long story short, I know we're already over, you know, the time. My 3 points that I wanted to make was, first of all, children learn from their environment.
Yes.
So it's not really right to put it all on the mother, because the mother can do so much. But when that child goes out and meets their friends, the other families and all of that, really the child is a societal property. So we need to put that in context as well. And then secondly, Madam Anne, I totally agree with you, and I stick side by side with you regarding us focusing on solving problems rather than just dwelling on the you know, symptoms and finding what is wrong and all. No, okay, something is wrong. How can we build things back? How can we improve our lives and the lives of our families and the whole society? Because it will always come back to you. What goes around comes around. And then my last point is, definitely we need to build schools to teach our girls these values. Bishop, I totally agree with you. We can't expect women to just start, okay, they heard this podcast, okay, I have to do this. No, we have to start catching them early and building and regaining the society back to a certain level where, inshallah, we will have people that are there that are you can trust them, they're full of integrity, and they know that on the day of judgment, they have someone to answer to, because that's the only time that they will do the right thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So, my co-host, do you have anything to say? The last minute, if that's your round, that's your turn. Hear you? We can't hear
you're
you.
muted.
Can we hear her?
Oh, thank you so much,
She's
madam.
muted. Yes,
Thank you
you are
so much,
muted.
everybody. I didn't realize I was muted. Sorry. So we'll go to our panelists now and get any last minute reviews, and then we'll finally close. Thank you. Mr. We can start with the Bishop.
Okay, I want to thank Mr. Machiro very much. If his father and mother were disagreed, we would not have him on this panel.
Yes.
So let us begin from the home. Even we who here begin small. But let me also say that we must emphasize the girls' school and who are those who teach in that school.
Yeah, correct.
There must be people of values. I insist it must be a woman who is a principal of girls' schools. I don't care that there will be men, but a woman must be the principal.
Thank you.
Even in the church, and I don't want you to think that treasury looters are only in government. No, the church too. I have taken positions against pastors, and families have hounded me as Bishop of Jos. I am not going to change, because I know what my mother will be thinking in her grave if I change. And I don't want to go and meet her when I die, and I told her that I've changed my mind. I will never change my mind. There is nothing like a Christian thief or an imam thief. There is nothing. You cannot be
nothing like that.
Nothing like that. So number two, I would want to encourage your group that please enlarge it. Women of value. It doesn't take many. One Mary Slessor started nursing in the middle of diseases, and God, with his infinite mercies, she was not infected.
We can't hear you, sir. You're breaking.
Okay. Can you hear now?
Hello, you're breaking.
Yes.
We can't hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. One Mary Slessor changed the killing of twins. Just one little girl at age 18. One Florence Nightingale changed the disease in England. One girl. I don't know what God has about women. He answers only their prayers. He doesn't answer. I want to go to heaven. We will have a discussion about that. So please don't underrate. The African is a stupid man who thinks women are nothing. Gaskia, we are losing. Number three, I would like to agree with Anne and with Amina and all of you that let us write the solutions in writing so that other girls can read. And we will be, there are many people more intelligent than me who can provide other things that are solution-based.
Absolutely.
So that this is a problem, but here is how we go. And usually solutions are simple things. Very, very simple. I thank you and God bless you.
Thank you. Madam Penny, please, your last minute comment.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mimuna. I would like to, like I've always said, you can't give what you don't have. I would like to encourage us to start from the grassroots, start from the bottom. Encourage the women we have around us, encourage children to have these values. There are some people who are already broken. Some people are, it's unfortunate that our parents' generations were well raised. And then we are now, they are how do I put it? The more the generation, the lesser the values. Find out that our generation was still better than the current generation. What's happening? People that were raised with values are losing those values. How do we maintain those values? How do we ensure that these values are preserved? And like the bishop said, the women have a pivotal role in ensuring that values are maintained. I was very pleased when he said that women know how to multiply things and they know how to preserve things. We have been given the responsibility by God, who in his infinite wisdom gave us the capacity to raise homes, to raise society, to raise community. We should not relent. We should not allow anyone take that power from us. We have the power to right things. We have the power to right the society. We should encourage ourselves. We should help ourselves to maintain and to harness our potentials. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Anne, please.
Okay. So first and foremost, I'd just like to say that I wasn't even raised by my mom. I lost my mom when I was 7. My dad raised me. And as yeah. So I'm almost tearing up. What I want to say is that we also need the help of men. We cannot do it alone. I know Africa as a whole, Nigeria as a whole is a patriarchal society. Let's look at the positive side of the patriarchy and hold on to those particular positive values. That's one. 2, I'm reaching out to Dr. Amina, who is a diasporian. We need the help of the diaspora. We cannot do it alone. I constantly speak to my sister as well, who is out there. So please, I believe that if one person speaks to another person, you understand, as the Archbishop said, it just took one lady, one young girl to make that impact. We as individuals can all make, our own impact. Then the last thing I want to talk about, which is what Peninia has also spoken about, is community. It takes more than the parents. It takes a community to raise a child. Now, if the community is broken, what can we do? So, there's so much. It's kind of like a catch-22, a vicious cycle. But I know that, if we're solution-focused, we come together. Each of us can begin to make those smaller changes, those small changes, and, they populate into something more global. I think I'll just stop here. Thank you.
Thank you,
Madam Anne.
Dr. Khadija and Dr.
Mimuna, say your last word, then I'll...
Okay. So,
just before you, Dr. Maimuna, can I just say only one thing? We have our Nigerian cultures, North, East, South, Middle Belt, and all of that. Please do not allow, as mothers, to change your culture into a Western culture. That model does not fit here. That's all I want to say.
Yes, that's
whether in the church, in the mosque, or anywhere.
Yes.
So thank you to all the panelists. And this was such a mind-blowing session. People are commenting and saying that we should have more. So what I've learned is that let us now take motherhood, right, and build a nation of ambassadors in our communities to protect our treasury. So I'm your host, your co-host, Dr. Mimuna Salim, and I hand over to the host. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, This has been such an interesting, enlightening session for me. I've learned so much. I always learn when I'm around enlightened people like you. Thank you so much for all your contributions. I'd like to say my last word. We are talking about motherhood to nationhood. The entire objective of all of these things we're talking about today is to raise and mentor the next generation of mothers. Yes, we need the men. Yes, we know that the women are specially created. Why do we call the earth Mother Earth? Saying that the mother is a spiritual being. So the mother is a spiritual being given to us, that God gave a special gift to nurture the next generation of humanity. We cannot drop the ball. We cannot allow the world to go spiraling, like Dr. Amina said. We need to know that every child is our child. We cannot say that child is not my child and we look the other way when they are doing the wrong thing. The treasury looters have become who they had because we did not collectively call them to account. We need to speak loud and we need to magnify our voice collectively to make them remember who they are. If they do not know who they are, we should keep reminding them. I am host Khadija Abdullahi. Thank you so much for joining me on my Muse Lounge. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for having us. All right.
Bye,